Continued volunteering, watching Davidson's movements. Jessica documented everything Mia observed. Emma went to school, attended his class, and pretended everything was normal while the recording app captured every interaction. Then Thursday happened. I was filing papers in the main office when the principal's secretary asked me to deliver something to the music wing. As I walked down the empty hallway, I heard voices from the orchestra room. The door was slightly open. "You're very special, Sarah. Not many students have your potential." I recognized Davidson's voice immediately. I peered through the crack and saw him sitting too close to a young girl on the piano bench, his hand on her shoulder. She looked uncomfortable but was trying to smile. I raised my phone and started recording video through the crack. Davidson was showing her something on his phone, photos of jewelry, just like he'd done with Emma. The girl shifted away slightly, but he moved closer. "These could be yours if you're willing to work for them. Private tutoring sessions, just you and me." My hands shook as I recorded. This was evidence of pattern behavior, exactly what we needed. I backed away quietly and hurried to the bathroom, where I immediately uploaded the video to multiple cloud services. That afternoon, Emma came home in tears. "He knows something's wrong. He kept staring at me during class, and afterward, he told me I seemed distant. He wants to meet tomorrow during his free period to reconnect." "You're not going," I said firmly. "If I don't, he'll fail me. He already gave me a D on my last essay, and it was perfect. I worked on it for hours." I looked at the essay. She was right. It was excellent work. He'd marked it down for lacking depth and failure to grasp core concepts, complete fabrications designed to control her. That night, I made a decision. I called Jessica. "We need more parents. If it's just us, they can dismiss us as hysterical. But if multiple families come forward," Mia mentioned that her friend Chloe said Davidson made her uncomfortable last year. Maybe her parents would talk to us? We spent the weekend carefully reaching out. 3 more families agreed to meet with us. 2 had daughters who'd received gifts and special attention from Davidson. 1 had already transferred her daughter to another school because of weird vibes from him. Monday morning, Emma woke up violently ill. The morning sickness was getting worse and the stress wasn't helping. I kept her home, which triggered another barrage of texts from Davidson's burner phone. "Your absence is noted. This will affect your grade." Ignoring me is childish, Emma. I expected better from you. "You have until end of day to respond, or I'll have to take formal action." The threats escalated throughout the day. By evening, he'd sent a formal email to my account, copying the principal, expressing concern about Emma's sudden behavioral changes and declining academic performance. He suggested a parent-teacher conference to discuss her troubling trajectory. I responded professionally, agreeing to a conference but insisting it include the principal and guidance counselor. Davidson immediately backtracked, saying he preferred to handle things privately first. Tuesday, Emma returned to school. I watched from my volunteer post as she walked to his classroom. Through the window, I saw him gesture for her to approach his desk while other students filed in. He leaned close, speaking quietly. Emma nodded mechanically and returned to her seat. The recording app later showed he'd told her, "Your mother's making things difficult. If she requests that conference with administration, I'll have to share some concerns about your behavior. The photos you sent me, for instance. The administration takes a dim view of students who pursue teachers." The victim blaming made me sick, but it also made me more determined. That afternoon, something unexpected happened. The school nurse called me. "Mrs. Thompson? Emma collapsed in PE class. We've called an ambulance." I raced to the hospital, my heart pounding. Emma was conscious but pale, hooked up to IV fluids. The doctor explained she was dehydrated and showing signs of severe stress. They ran blood tests, which confirmed the pregnancy and showed concerning hormone levels. "She needs to avoid stress," the doctor said. "Whatever's going on, it's affecting her physical health." Emma squeezed my hand weakly. "I can't do this anymore, Mom. I can't pretend everything's okay. I can't sit in his class knowing." She touched her stomach lightly. That's when I knew we couldn't wait any longer. Davidson's psychological torture was literally making my daughter sick, but I also knew we needed one more piece of evidence, something undeniable that even his connections couldn't explain away. "Emma," I said carefully, "would you be willing to wear a wire?" She looked at me with frightened eyes. "What do you mean?" "Just a small recording device. If he says anything incriminating, he's too careful during school. He only says things when we're alone. Then we create that opportunity, but safely, with me nearby." Emma was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded. "Okay, but how?" "I've been thinking about this. You'll ask to meet him at the coffee shop on Main Street. Public place, lots of witnesses. Tell him you need to talk about your grades, that you're worried about your future. I'll be at the next table. He won't like meeting in public. Then he'll suggest an alternative. Either way, we'll have him on recording making that suggestion." We went home that night with a plan. Emma texted Davidson from her regular phone, the one he didn't know I was monitoring. "Can we talk? I'm really worried about my grades. Could we meet at the coffee shop after school tomorrow?" His response was immediate. "Coffee shops are too public. Come to my classroom after school. My mom is picking me up right after school. Coffee shop is the only time I can meet." There was a long pause. Then, "Fine, 4 p.m. Come alone." I had Jessica stationed in the coffee shop by 3:30, pretending to work on her laptop. I arrived at 3:45, sitting 2 tables away with my back to Emma's meeting spot. Emma walked in at exactly 4 p.m., wearing the small recording device I'd purchased online. Davidson arrived 5 minutes late, scanning the shop carefully before sitting down. I could hear their conversation through the earpiece connected to Emma's wire. "This is highly inappropriate, Emma," he began. "Meeting like this could be misunderstood." "I'm just worried about my grades," Emma said, her voice shaky but determined. "You said my last essay was terrible, but I worked really hard on it. Your work has been declining since you started pulling away from me. You know what you need to do to fix this." "What do you mean?" I heard him sigh impatiently. "Don't play dumb, Emma. You were so eager before, so willing. Now you act like what we have is wrong. My mom says, your mother is poisoning your mind. What we have is special. Age doesn't matter when 2 souls connect. You said you understood that." "I'm 13, Emma said quietly. "Age is just a number. You're mature for your age. That's why I chose you." My hands clenched into fists. He'd just admitted to choosing her, to pursuing her. "But the baby?" Emma started. "What baby?" His voice turned sharp. "Emma, what are you talking about?" There was silence. I could hear Emma's rapid breathing through the wire. "Answer me," Davidson demanded. "What baby?" "I'm pregnant," Emma whispered. I heard a chair scrape. Through my peripheral vision, I saw Davidson lean across the table. "You're lying," he hissed. "You're trying to trap me." "I'm not lying. The doctor confirmed it." "Then you'll take care of it. I'll pay for it. No one needs to know." "I already told my mom." Davidson's hand shot across the table, grabbing Emma's wrist. "You did what?" "Let go," Emma said, louder now. "You're hurting me. Do you have any idea what you've done? My career, my family? Let go of her." I stood up, turning to face them. Davidson released Emma's wrist, his face cycling through through shock, rage, and calculation. Red marks were already forming on Emma's skin where he'd gripped her. "This is a setup," he said, standing. "You're trying to frame me." "Frame you for what?" I asked calmly. "For pursuing my 13-year-old daughter? For getting her pregnant? For threatening her grades if she didn't comply?" Other customers were staring now. Jessica had her phone out, recording everything. Davidson noticed and took a step back. "I'll have your daughter expelled," he said quietly. "I'll make sure she never gets into any decent school. I'll ruin both of you." "Try it," I said. "We have everything. The emails, the texts, the gifts, the recordings, everything." His face went pale. Without another word, he turned and left the coffee shop. Emma collapsed against me, sobbing. I held her tight while Jessica called the police. Not the local department, but the state police. We'd bypassed Davidson's brother entirely. That night, Emma's wrist had bruised into a clear handprint. I photographed it from every angle. The recording from the wire was crystal clear. Davidson admitting to choosing her, telling her age didn't matter, trying to pressure her into terminating the pregnancy, threatening us. But I knew this was far from over. Davidson had too much to lose. He would fight back with everything he had, and Emma was already paying the price, both physically and emotionally. The real battle was just beginning. The state police arrived within 30 minutes. Two detectives in unmarked cars pulled up outside the coffee shop, their approach professional and methodical. Detective Margaret Chen introduced herself while her partner, Theodore Marks, began taking statements from witnesses. I watched Davidson's face drain of color through the window as he sat in his car, frantically typing on his phone. Emma trembled beside me as Detective Chen examined her wrist, photographing the bruises from multiple angles. The detective's expression remained neutral, but I caught the tightening around her eyes. She'd seen this before. "We'll need you both to come to the station," Detective Chen said quietly. "We have a special interview room for cases like this." At the state police headquarters, Emma underwent a forensic interview with a trained specialist while I provided all our documented evidence. The encrypted folders, screenshots, recordings, everything. Detective Marks methodically cataloged each piece, his fingers flying across the keyboard as he created the official record. "This is extensive documentation," he said, looking up from the screen. "You've done excellent work preserving evidence." The interview lasted 4 hours. Emma emerged exhausted but somehow lighter, as if telling trained professionals had lifted a weight she'd been carrying. The specialist explained they had enough for an immediate arrest warrant. That night, Davidson was arrested at his home. Jessica texted me a photo someone had posted on the neighborhood Facebook page. Davidson being let out in handcuffs while his wife stood in the doorway, her face a mask of shock. The arrest happened at 9 p.m., ensuring maximum visibility to neighbors. The next morning, the school exploded with rumors. I kept Emma home while the investigation expanded. Detective Chen called to inform us that Davidson's work computer had been seized, along with his personal devices. They'd found deleted photos and messages to multiple students spanning 3 years. Sarah's parents called me that afternoon, their voices shaking. Their daughter had finally admitted Davidson had been grooming her, showing her jewelry and asking for special private sessions. 2 more families came forward by evening. The pattern was always the same. Compliments, gifts, requests for secrecy, gradual escalation. Davidson's brother, the police chief, attempted to intervene. He showed up at the state police headquarters demanding to see the case files, claiming jurisdiction. Detective Chen calmly informed him he'd been recused due to conflict of interest. When he persisted, threatening to make calls to people who matter, she had security escort him out. The school board held an emergency meeting. Davidson's wife sat silent in the back row while parents demanded answers. How had this gone unnoticed? Why hadn't the administration acted on concerns? The principal admitted several teachers had mentioned Davidson's overly friendly behavior with female students, but without concrete evidence. They dismissed it as his enthusiastic teaching style. Emma's condition worsened over the following days. The stress triggered severe morning sickness and cramping. Dr. Hugelschnatz monitored her closely, concerned about the pregnancy's viability given Emma's age and emotional state. I held Emma's hand through ultrasounds and blood draws, watching my daughter face consequences no 13-year-old should endure. The prosecutor, a woman named Margaret Sullivan who specialized in crimes against children, met with us to discuss the case. She explained the charges: sexual abuse of a minor, using position of authority for asexual exploitation, witness intimidation, and evidence tampering. The deleted messages and photos had been recovered, showing a clear pattern of predatory behavior. "He's looking at 15 to 20 years, she said, reviewing the evidence. The multiple victims and his attempt to destroy evidence work against him. Davidson's attorney tried negotiating a plea deal, claiming his client suffered from depression and poor judgment. The prosecutor refused. With Emma's recorded confession and the physical evidence of assault at the coffee shop, they had an airtight case. 3 weeks later, Emma miscarried. The cramping started during breakfast, and by lunch, we were at the hospital. She gripped my hand as the doctor confirmed what we both knew was happening. Emma sobbed, not from sadness but from a complex mix of relief and guilt that I helped her understand was completely normal. "Your body knew what was best," Dr. Hugelschnatz explained gently. "This isn't uncommon in young pregnancies, especially under severe stress." The miscarriage became part of the criminal case, evidence of the physical trauma Davidson had inflicted. Emma struggled with the publicity of her most private pain becoming legal documentation, but she understood its importance. More victims emerged during the investigation. A former student, now in college, contacted the prosecutor after seeing Davidson's arrest online. She'd been too scared to report him 4 years ago when he'd cornered her after school and touched her inappropriately. Her testimony established a pattern going back to when Davidson first started teaching. Davidson's wife filed for divorce and moved in with her sister. She discovered a hidden folder on their shared home computer, containing hundreds of photos of female students, some clearly taken without their knowledge during class. She turned everything over to prosecutors, her disgust overcoming any lingering loyalty. The trial date was set for 6 months out. Emma began therapy with a specialist in trauma and adolescent abuse. The sessions were hard. Emma had to confront how thoroughly Davidson had manipulated her, how he'd weaponized her academic ambitions and need for approval. Some days she came home angry, other days in tears, but slowly she began to heal. I returned to work but took every Friday off for Emma's appointments and case meetings. My boss understood, having a daughter Emma's age herself. The school district placed Davidson on unpaid leave and began implementing new oversight policies, including mandatory reporting training and clear guidelines about teacher-student interactions. Jessica became our closest ally. She attended every court hearing, took notes, and helped coordinate with other families. When Emma felt too overwhelmed to face school, Mia would bring her assignments and sit with her, their friendship evolving from typical teenage concerns to something deeper and and more supportive. The trial lasted 2 weeks. Emma testified via closed-circuit video to avoid facing Davidson directly. She spoke clearly about the grooming, the gifts, the escalating physical contact, and the assault that resulted in pregnancy. Her voice shook, but never wavered from the truth. Davidson took the stand in his own defense, claiming the relationship was consensual and that Emma had pursued him. The prosecutor systematically destroyed his testimony, presenting the emails where he called her special, the texts threatening her grades, the recording where he admitted to choosing her. When confronted with evidence of multiple victims, he finally broke down. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Davidson's face crumpled as the verdict was read. His brother sat in the back row, his police uniform a bitter irony in the courtroom. The judge ordered Davidson remanded immediately, denying bail pending sentencing. At sentencing, Emma provided a victim impact statement. She spoke about the theft of her innocence, the manipulation of her trust, the physical and emotional trauma that would take years to heal. Other victims spoke too, a chorus of voices Davidson had tried to silence. The judge sentenced Davidson to 15 years in prison with lifetime registration as an SX offender. No possibility of early release. The courtroom erupted in quiet sobs of relief from families who'd fought for justice. The school district settled out of court for enough to cover Emma's therapy and future educational needs. They implemented comprehensive policy changes and mandatory training for all staff. The principal retired early, his failure to protect students ending his career. Emma returned to school the following year at a different district. She struggled at first, flinching when male teachers called on her, but gradually found her confidence again. Her grades recovered, and she joined the debate team, finding her voice in structured arguments about justice and ethics. I trained as a court advocate for abuse victims, using our experience to help other families navigate the system. Working with local organizations, I helped 15 families in our first year, teaching them about evidence preservation and their rights. Emma sometimes spoke at training sessions, her story helping other parents recognize warning signs. Davidson's brother resigned as police chief after an investigation revealed he'd dismissed 3 previous complaints about his brother. The new chief implemented mandatory training on handling abuse cases and conflicts of interest. Emma graduated high school with honors, her college essay discussing resilience and the importance of speaking truth to power. She chose a school 3 states away, needing distance to fully establish her independence. I drove her to campus, both of us crying as we hugged goodbye, not from sadness but from the triumph of reaching this milestone. Today, Emma studies psychology, planning to specialize in adolescent trauma therapy. She texts me daily, sharing small victories and occasional setbacks. In therapy, she learned that healing isn't linear, that some days are harder than others, but that survival itself is a form of victory. I keep a photo on my desk of Emma at graduation, mortarboard slightly crooked, smile genuine. Behind it sits a folder of thank you notes from families we've helped. Davidson stole so much from my daughter, but he couldn't steal her future. That belongs to Emma alone, rebuilt stronger at the broken places.